I always forget, man, because like I have to mute my mic to record when I'm recording footage when I'm playing games. I have to mute the mic because you can't just like have the mic not active in certain scenes in OBS and stuff. So anyway, I will I will eventually learn how to do what I'm doing right now. But what's up? What's up, Tassel? Man, looking at this different chat window is really throwing me after like 7 years. Okay, that's maybe an exaggeration. After some number of years though of streaming just with the Twitch chat. Everyone's gay. Congratulations. Uh, can you see all the things? You can see all the things. Sorry, I'm organizing all my windows and stuff. Some of what I'm doing here might take some getting used to. But yeah. This game, we will talk about it soon. Love Eternal is the new game from the creator of Angel Game and also Holding It from last year, which was one of my favorite games of last year. This is more in the vein of the latter. This is more in the vein of Holding It. It's a precision platformer and stuff. Sir Rothschild sends his regards. Is this a reference to something other than the IRL Rothschild family? I will be going very minimal spoilers. I will say that. I'll be going very minimal spoilers on this. Also, I'm not going to start talking about this for a bit. I just have it pulled up because it's the first like game with footage that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, I'm mostly going to just give a very brief recommendation with minimal spoilers. I will show the first like I don't know. I'll let the footage play for the first like 20 minutes or something, but I'm gonna um, planning on mostly talking about how how this game is interesting as a remake. It's kind of a remake of the original Love from 2015, which is maybe Toby Alden's first game. I'm not exactly sure, but it's yeah, it's pretty interesting. And oh, I was also going to talk about I forgot. I asked about this I asked about this platformer image in the Discord because I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about precision platformer level design. But yeah, I'm going to talk about this stuff at a very high level, and I personally, I would not, it would not bother me to hear this kind of stuff before playing the game. But it's of course up to you how much you want to care about spoilers. But yeah, first let's we've got look, we have to respect the schedule, okay? We've got a fancy schedule widget now. So we have to respect the schedule. Okay. Oh wait, I should check sorry, I should check one more thing. I should check if the YouTube chat is getting is properly combined with the Twitch chat. Testing from YouTube. Uh-oh. Okay. I thought I had a combined chat. No, there's one person watching on YouTube right now, and it might be me. But yeah. Okay, so yeah, maybe I'll try to check in on the YouTube chat every once in a while, but yeah, that sucks. I thought I figured it out, but there's probably some little thing wrong. I used to have 2 viewers on YouTube when I ran Majora's Mask. Yeah, I don't know if it's actually worth streaming on YouTube for this. It's kind of weird because like I'm editing these videos, and like after the stream I'm editing the individual like segments that I think work well as YouTube videos, and like posting them on that same YouTube channel as like individual videos. And then it's like more dense, right? So like if you're I feel like most of the people who are watching on YouTube probably just want to watch that and don't care about the stream. So what I'm doing is I'm streaming on YouTube, but then I'm unlisting it. So if you want to watch the stream VOD, you have to come to Twitch as it is right now, because I just don't want to clog up people's like subscription feed with like a stream and then like three smaller videos that are like edited versions of the stream, right? I don't know. I probably care too much about this stuff because I feel like most YouTubers just do not care. Most YouTubers will spam you with like 10 videos if they can. They'll spam you with as many videos as they can. But that's that's how I feel about it. Like if it were me, I would get annoyed with all the. And honestly, it's kind of it's kind of a problem with the platform. Like it's a problem with YouTube that you can't just like turn off notifications for the stream or turn off like stream like live streams in your sub box for an individual channel, right? That's pretty stupid. But yeah, the fact is you can't do that. So I don't want to I don't have a bunch of duplicate crap in people's feed. But Marco did a Hellseed rando and had multiple 5-hour videos. Yeah, but was it like duplicate? Was it like literally duplicate content? Like like the same, you know what I'm talking about? Like I'm talking about the stream and then like literally the same content but like slightly edited down as like videos, you know? So, yeah, the plan right now is to stream on both YouTube and Twitch, but unlist the VODs on YouTube and then like, upload the videos. Well, I think it makes sense. Like it's not I'm not going to say that I'm not considering that as a factor, right? The like algorithm stuff. But I also think it just makes sense as a, you know, trying to give you guys something that actually gives you value and doesn't waste your time, right? Like some people, oh no, we don't have animated emotes in the. Wait, do we have it on the stream? No. Also, we don't have name colors on the stream. Is this just dog shit, man? Is this just kind of trash? Yeah, we'll have to re-examine this. Maybe this platform that I'm using for the combined chat is not very good. But the Stream Elements chat that I was using before, it doesn't support combined chat. I this is the one that Claude recommended, but it's also the one that, seemed like the best option from researching separately. What was I saying? But yeah, like, obviously it is better for the algorithm as well, but I think it's better for the algorithm because it's actually what is good in this case, right? Like, if you want to be the type of person who hangs out in the stream every week, like that's great. That would be my ideal, right? To get as many people actually hanging out as possible. Cause, that actually helps me because you're talking you're giving me it's making it easier for me to have things to talk about because you're chatting. But a lot of people aren't going to want to hang out in the stream every week. They're just going to want to watch an individual rant or segment or whatever, like when it's relevant to what they care about. So I think separating it out like that just obviously makes sense. So that's what I'm going to do. And why isn't everyone subscribed to the sausage? Yeah, great question. Probably because it's not even clear what's going on right now. Everyone probably still thinks I'm doing speedruns, or just everyone still thinks I'm retired from speedruns and not doing anything. Um. Anyway, let's talk about some some news from this week, right? I liked the news discussion last time. If you guys have any you know, if there's any hot topics that you guys care about, do not start bringing up like politics and shit. Like I'm talking like if there's any like gaming related news that I should talk about, or it doesn't have to be like news, like anything that's come out, or some video essay I should react to or whatever. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's talk about that. The Xbox new head of Xbox or whatever. Is she still okay? Let's actually Asha Sharma. Okay. So I mean, pure Xbox Polygon doesn't have a lot of options. Yeah, so Phil Spencer, right? Phil Spencer. Okay. First of all, let me just say I don't care about this. Like I don't really care about this cuz I mean, it, it will probably end up mattering to me in some way, right? Cuz like Xbox, you know, recently Xbox started leaning in heavy with the Game Pass thing. Yeah. I wanted to talk about that as well. Kita, what's up? Um Obviously the Game Pass that like affects the industry in complicated ways that matter to everyone who plays games. But it's also hard to say much about that. Like, even if I'm expecting it to matter in some way like that down the line, like I can't really, I don't know what to say about that from just from this, right? Like, but I will say Phil Spencer, he kind of gave the impression that he actually did care about games, and maybe that's the main thing that people have been upset about with this, because I saw that there was a lot of buzz about this. I'm guessing it's because she's like not at all a gamer, right? Um, which, yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Nintendo, right? I'm not the biggest Nintendo guy anymore, but I do admire Nintendo. They seem to be more focused on gameplay, right? Like they and just like doing interesting things with gameplay, and I feel like that's because they actually care about having people who play games and people, yeah, just people who care about games in executive positions or in some kind of higher up positions. I don't know exactly what their corporate structure is and stuff and how they make decisions, but like I get the sense that Nintendo is much more by gamers for gamers, whatever that means, than like most of these Western publishers. And yeah, this is a step in the opposite direction for Xbox, I feel like. So that seems bad. But I don't know what all this speculation is about. I don't know. I don't do I care what Polygon has to say about this? Probably not. I don't know. I'm not I just don't follow like industry news very much, which maybe I'll start following it more because because of this. But yeah, Miriant, like, or what, however you say that, is that how you say it? It's like Vim's lair, right? Is that is that what it is? I don't use these things. I mean, I just try not to use emulators. Mir Miriant, yeah. So it's what I said. Myriad Entertainment. Yeah. So I don't really use these things. I try not to use emulators, and so I just try to play things in a very legit way when I can. Um, Not to say I never have, but yeah, yeah, that stuff is obviously important. So again, again, recession indicator. There's like people are struggling right now financially. I think more than people realize, and we're gonna see. Like I'm kind of dreading uh what's going to happen to games. Like I think we've already kind of we're already kind of in a worse place in terms of how many interesting games are coming out. You know, every year, like on average, I think 2025 was a pretty good year actually, but on average, we're seeing less experimental stuff, less weird stuff, more safe bets per year than we were in like the mid 2010s, right? I think it's kind of steadily declined, and it's just obvious that a lot more people are struggling financially than they were back then. And I don't think that's going to get better really soon. I think it might get worse, and I think I think we will I think we will look back on this era, like this past decade of games, as like I worry, at least I worry that we will look back on this past decade of games as a golden age relative to what's coming. I don't know. I don't think it'll be as bad as like I think the early 2000s, like the period when indie games hadn't really taken off yet, but AAA had like gotten mired in this graphics mode and like story heavy mode. Like there was kind of an era in like the late zero zeros and stuff when interesting releases were pretty sparse, and I don't think we'll get back to that bad of a place. But yeah, I don't know. You can't really predict this stuff, but I do worry about this. And yeah, I just think, it costs. The reason I'm saying all this is because it costs a lot of money to keep an archival site up, that an archival site that a lot of people are using and that has a lot of stuff up there. It costs a lot of money to keep that going, like every month. I think the I saw that the someone was one of the people running it was paying $6,000 per month out of pocket to keep it going. That's not even like the full cost. That's like, you know, the difference between what it costs to keep up and what they were getting in donations. So yeah, yeah, yeah. I think for a lot of people, I think for a lot of people, emulation is really the only. It's their only way, right? So I don't really know. I don't really know what the solution is. The archival site that I'm talking about is Mir. What is it? Mirient. It's someone set it up above in the chat. But r/roms megathread. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are other places for most of these things, but it's nice for it to be all convenient in one place. Like, yeah, yeah. Obviously, I am very much in support of people, expanding their horizons, in terms of games, playing different kinds of games. But I will say, my experience with talking to people, my experience in the games discourse is that accessibility to the ROMs and whatever is not the main barrier to people being more open minded. I think a lot of people, I think the vast majority of people in games, they find a genre that they really like and then they just kind of stick to it forever. And, I talked about this. Man, I'm getting the I'm getting the not in the on stream chat, but in my chat paid chat window thing. I'm getting the profile pictures now, so I'm seeing this base Thomas Pynchon profile picture. Pynchon. I need to just embrace that I say Pynchon, and that's fine. Anyway, um, but yeah, yeah. I I question how much of a difference it really makes for this stuff to be really accessible. I feel like, but yeah, I'm hoping that part of what I'm trying to do here is like build a community of people who are open minded and really, care about playing all the different, understanding all the different kinds of games that are out there, and expanding their horizons and stuff like that. And so, maybe we can play a small part in this, have a place where people can share these kind of things with each other. And yeah. Um, what was the other thing I was going to respond to? Interested in John Blow's Sokoban game coming out this year. Yeah, that's maybe my most anticipated game right now. Order of the Sinking Star. It's and I mean, even with him, you can see what I was talking about. Like, there's a little bit of a money issue. he managed to he managed to pull together a lot of funding to make The Witness happen, even though that was an insanely ambitious game. And like pretty experimental game. He managed to pull together a lot of money for that, and didn't have to work with a publisher. Whereas now he's working with a publisher. Although maybe he's just changed his mind. Maybe he just sees it as more valuable to save his time and not have to do the marketing stuff himself and things like that. Maybe a relatively good deal with a publisher is just actually worth it by his assessment now, whereas it wasn't back then. But it does seem like money is tighter in general. So yeah, but yeah, Order of the Sinking Star it looks great. Apparently, it's 500 hours long, which that alone has me interested. But it's a John Blow game. Like he just knows he just knows there's just certain artists, and I'm going to talk about this later with Love Eternal, because yeah, there's just certain artists that know how to communicate with me through their work, right? And there's only a few of those in games that, like, every time I boot up their game, I can be pretty sure that, like, I'm in good hands. I like have that sense of faith in the game designer or in the artist, like, because this is not really just a games thing. Um, I have the sense that I'm in good hands, and like I feel like when I'm confused, it's because I'm supposed to be confused. It's not because something has gone wrong with the communication. I'm able to get on the wavelength, right? And yeah, John Blow is just one of those people who really knows how to do that. He really knows how to care about every player's experience at a really granular level, and like get inside the player's head and always be one step ahead, always be, yeah, always being always having clarity to what he's doing. Not in the sense of like it's obvious, easy to understand everything, but in the sense of he is always doing exactly what he wants to do. The experience that you are having is the experience that he wanted you to have. I mean, maybe he would want you to be a different type of person who can appreciate it more, but he made the thing that he wanted to make. Anyway, um, yeah, Braid Anniversary Edition clearly didn't do as well as he hoped for, um, which is unfortunate. Yeah, there is a Discord. Yeah, there's a Discord. Right now, so I've just adapted the Discord that I was using for my speedrun streaming stuff. But let me get the invite. Wait, I should get the one that doesn't expire after 7 days. Wait, can I type in here? Okay, I'm. Wait, did that work? I guess I should go to the Twitch chat. Okay, this restream thing is annoying. Oh wait, it actually did go in there. What? Oh, wait, I just realized. I was so confused. I just realized that the chat is upside down from how it was before. I hate this thing so much. I hate this chat aggregator thing so much. Uh okay. But yeah, that's the Discord. And also, what's up K Monk? Sorry, I just looked over at the YouTube chat for the first time in a while. I tried to use this tool to aggregate the chats on stream, and it just made the chat worse and didn't actually correctly pull from the YouTube chat somehow. So I'm gonna have to fix it for next time. I'll probably try just a different tool. Yeah, it looks like it's like the opposite direction from before. I don't know, man. Anyway, yeah, I think Braid has not sat as well in. I think it would be easy for him to assume based on the reception at the time that like, oh, a Braid remake would obviously be big. Like it was a big game at the time, but I think mainstream games like game reviewer, that type of taste, right? If you're the type of person who cares a lot about Metacritic scores and what mainstream game reviews have to say, that type of taste uh has not really has kind of drifted away from Braid over the years since 2008. And yeah, the people who really love John Blow, obviously there's a cohort there, but and those people still, they surely bought the game for the most part. I mean, even a lot of them probably didn't buy the game because really the main selling point is the commentary. But unless you're just like ready to replay it anyway, it's really not a strong remake in terms of like new selling points. I feel like the graphics are better. I do think it looks better, but and it actually sounds a lot better too. But that's pretty minor in terms of the appeal of the game overall. But so yeah, it's not too surprising to me that it didn't do that well, but it is unfortunate because I would have liked him to have more money. I always want him to have more money. Um, Although it's possible that he runs out of money and has to shut down the studio and has to start making games by himself, and that actually turns out better somehow. And at least for me, for my taste, like maybe we get a lot of like smaller, more experimental stuff from him that's not quite as polished, but like is more interesting. Like that would be cool. I think no matter what happens, we're gonna get interesting games from Jonathan Blow. So I'm not worried. Like I'm not that worried. But yeah, curious about J Blow's game because Sokoban has been pushed so far. Have a hard time envisioning how you can create 1,000 more novel puzzles. My instinct is it's not concise enough, but I won't write it off early. I think the fact that he's making 1,000 puzzles is actually what gives it the new appeal. It is actually what makes it new enough, novel enough for me. Like seeing that scale attacked will be interesting, I think. And I like the framing of it as like four separate games that get combined. And I don't know. I just think that I think he has played all these other games and he wouldn't do stuff, or at least he wouldn't linger unnecessarily long on ideas that feel overdone and stuff like that. Should you play Outer Wilds if you want to get introduced to the sausage type games? Yeah, that's maybe a good like gateway for a lot of people. For a lot of people here, like a lot of people here obviously like Majora's Mask and stuff. I feel like Outer Wilds is kind of, it shares a lot of appeal with with Majora's Mask, but is a little bit more for adults. Play the Sylvie collection. Even I am not playing the Sylvie collection, but I am watching the Let's Play series about it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The fact that and Jack Lance, the creator of Enigmash, actually worked on Order of the Sinking Star quite a bit. So that's another thing that just there's two different designers on board. There's two different designers involved with this game, both of whom I would play anything that they make day one. Like both of them have earned my trust to an extreme degree. Um, so I have a hard time believing that I'm not going to enjoy it, but we'll see. I have played a lot of Pokemon games, and but I just reviewed Where's My Egg the other day, right? That game was like very derivative, and I would still say I enjoyed it at like a 6 out of 10 level, right? Like I still enjoyed it a lot more than the average game I play, which is maybe a 4 out of 10 or something. Like that game, I don't know. I just think there's more room for interesting stuff in Sokoban than you might think, and I think John Blow can do it. So yeah. Anything else? Anything else? Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about this Xbox thing. I don't know. This Blue Point closure thing. So box or void? No, I don't know what that is. Um, Blue Point closing is kind of. I mean, it's always sad people lose their jobs and stuff, right? But at the same time, I'm. It's Blue Point was not a force for good, a force for my idea of good in the games industry, right? Like they were making these remakes that kind of they weren't really concerned with taking what was special about the original game and amplifying that, right? Or like bringing that out more somehow. They were taking they were concerned with removing everything that was artistically challenging about the original to make it more palatable and more like everything else. And you could argue that the people who are playing these remakes would never have played the originals, and so they're getting some fraction of what's good about the original now, and that they wouldn't have gotten before. But like, I'm sorry, I just can't. I just can't get on board with that logic. Like, I don't like that the remake kind of takes up space in the cultural. It takes up space socially and culturally that would otherwise be going to the original. And yeah, I like for there to be cool things out there that are maybe a little bit challenging for most people, but are totally worth it. And if they don't want to play that, there's plenty of normal ass games out there that they can play. I don't know. So like as far as what studios I would be sad about closing, like Blue Point is very low on the list. And in fact, there's a huge shortage of like really good programmers in the mainstream games industry right now. And I mean, not just mainstream, like you play any game, any like 3D game now, just about, it's uh gonna have technical problems probably. Like there's just obviously a shortage of highly skilled programmers, and Blue Point obviously had some highly skilled programmers. So for those people will be able to find another job, right? Somewhere else in the games industry, they will be able to find another job. And those people will help make actual new games better. So like that's maybe even a good thing. So yeah, I struggle to be upset about this. And I saw that FromSoft actually apparently didn't like the Demon Souls remake, and that was maybe a factor in Blue Point shutting down. Like they couldn't do a Bloodborne remake, which obviously everyone wants. They couldn't do a Bloodborne remake because FromSoft, didn't want them to, and Sony didn't want to step on FromSoft's toes because they're such a major player now. Um, they probably want the possibility of deals with them in the future and all that stuff. So that's awesome. It's cool that FromSoft like has an opinion about this. Most you worry that like as a studio gets really big, they kind of lose their they get out of touch with like what was special about the things that they've made, especially the older stuff. They it would be easy for them to like just only lean into what's good about Elden Ring and kind of forget that Demon Souls was a different thing that was really cool. And they haven't done that seemingly. They seemingly care about what was good about Demon Souls. They seem to see clearly, at least somewhat. So they seem to, they can tell that what Blue Point did is not really in line with their vision and what was cool about that game. So respect for FromSoft. This increases the likelihood that I will play Elden Ring at some point, which I still have not done. Only Blue Point game he played was Shadow of the Colossus remake. Pretty inoffensive. Yeah, I do think. Um, yeah, that one seems not as bad. That one seems definitely not as bad as the Demon Souls one to me. Um, but I haven't looked into it quite as much. The Demon Souls one, like I heard some of the music changes and saw some of the visual changes, and it just seems obviously the wrong direction. Just kind of like adding stimulation in a way that is not needed or good. Um, yeah. What else? Oh, Ninja Gaiden 2 Recomp. Can you guys even see this? Ninja Gaiden 2 Recomp. So I have not, again, another game that I have not played yet that I'm going to be talking that I'm just going to talk about. But I'm interested in Ninja Gaiden 2. I'm very interested in the Xbox. Well, I've played original Ninja Gaiden 2, but this is about the Xbox games. Um, and yeah, I haven't played the Xbox Ninja Gaiden games yet. I actually got an Xbox 360 used recently, largely for this reason. And this year I'm going to play. Actually, let me see if I can pull up the thing that I made for Twitter. Um, this year, you can't see it. This year, this year I will be playing. Wait, it is on this list, right? Yeah, it is on this list. Ninja Gaiden Black. Um, what have I played here so far? Just Knight's Try. Oh, I played the 868 back demo this week. But yeah, so I did this meme of, we're gonna play one game from every genre, quote unquote every genre. But this is hard, man. Like it's hard to play one game from every genre, especially when like one of them is like melee, right? Like this is a 1,000 hour game, and like even 868 back is potentially a 1,000 hour game. But I'll count it if I get like reasonably deep into it, or maybe get a clear or whatever. But like Blueprints, that's like maybe a 100 hour game or something. This is going to be hard while I'm also trying to keep up with new releases and talk about everything on Twitch and whatever. But anyway, I'm excited to finally try Ninja Gaiden Black um, this year. It's apparently a more arcade style action game than like Souls likes and stuff like that, but in 3D, which makes it different. And yeah, it's not exactly like most character action games, even though you might call it a character action game. And apparently, two especially has a lot of chaotic randomness, which is something that I obviously really like. And apparently my impression is that the fan base, the um the Ninja Gaiden, the 3D Ninja Gaiden fan base actually appreciates that about the game. Like they actually appreciate the chaotic randomness, um which it might be unique in that way. Like I feel like yeah, I guess like beat 'em up players also kind of appreciate that, but yeah, I feel like most gamers are out there, most hardcore gamers kind of get really autistically against randomness, right? And don't want to ever like take damage to RNG or whatever. Um, so all that in mind, like Ninja Gaiden 2 Recomp could kind of be huge because um, apparently the original Ninja Gaiden 2 is very interesting and arguably the best game of its kind, but also very flawed. So we could see like a mod, almost I'm thinking almost like a Majora's Mask randomizer. Not as extreme a transformation of the game, right? Because Ninja Gaiden 2 is already about randomized challenges and stuff, but like we could see something that we could see a version of this game that is more in line with what I like, I think, which would be cool. The problem is with this kind of stuff, Majora's Mask randomizers and mods that are trying to bring something out of the original game that the original game didn't really successfully bring out. You kind of need a designer. You kind of need a real game designer on board, right? Like Majora's Mask randomizer is really cool. Nice. Does that does that show up? Yeah, it does show up on the I hate this restream thing so much, man. Um anyway, you can I is there like an obvious way to mute that? Add to block list in the restream chat. I won't do it right now. I'm probably just gonna switch to a different chat provider. Anyway, yeah, Majora's Mask Randomizer is really cool, but in my opinion, it would be so much more cool if someone really tried to make a format that used randomization but wasn't just like, yeah, make a better competitive format other than just like racing a full randomizer seed every time with really restricted rule set. Like, I think you could take inspiration from Bro Likes here. And I've talked about this on this stream before a long time ago, but so I won't get deep into it. But my point is, like, if you really want to make the game really dense and really focused on the a specific aspect of the original game, right? You want to make a mod that's really focused on that. You kind of need someone who knows about game design and knows about, like, can really think critically about the structure of the game and transform it in the right ways. And so I'm just always skeptical about how much how great the results are actually going to be for stuff like that. But in any case, it is good that this exists because apparently currently the emulation is just terrible for Ninja Gaiden 2. So this is gonna presumably improve it quite a bit, even without like mods and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm excited about that, even though I haven't played those games yet. Here's another thing. Here's another thing that happened this week. Um, I love these, man. I love these. Shout out Kita. I love these. So Lotad, for those who don't know, is a low optimization tool assisted demonstration. So it's like a tool assisted speed run, but like not quite as like intensely optimized, and it's more for like you know, showing off a challenge run that, typically stuff that you wouldn't easily be able to do or not wouldn't be able to do at all in real time. Show off some like crazy route or concept run. And obviously the 3D Zelda games are prime real estate for this kind of thing. Like, uh, here's something interesting. I think of I think of stuff like this and stuff like pan and Koek videos for Mario 64 and stuff like what I was just talking about with Ninja Gaiden 2 actually. Like the possibility of modding Ninja Gaiden 2 of like making a better randomizer for a game or things like that. I think of that as like as important as like making the game in the first place almost. Like, I think you can add so much. Like I talked about the Ninja Gaiden 2 thing as bringing more value out of the game or something like that, right? Like, yeah, it's I think of it like what's it called? Is this what it's called? I think about it like stuff like this, right? Like, there's all these books that, like, there's a category of literary criticism that is not about critiquing the work. It's not about like saying that something, judging the work, right? It's not about saying that something is good or bad. It's about like doing a close reading and like bringing that and like finding something in there, like mining the work for something that a casual reader would not realistically figure out or notice or whatever, and bringing out so much more meaning out of the thing, right? So that if you read the work and you love it, like if I read Gravity's Rainbow and I love it, or I'm interested in understanding it better, I can read this other book, and it's like it's literary criticism, but it's like I think interpretive criticism would be what this would be categorized as. I don't know what the other kind of criticism would be called. I forget, but there's kind of a dichotomy of types of criticism there. But like in the literary world, this is considered criticism, and I think a lot of people would look on it more highly than the other kind of criticism, actually, right? And I actually think this is kind of the game's equivalent of that, or it's one possible game's equivalent of that, right? Like, it's people taking this game, looking at these games so seriously and getting so deep into them and understanding them so well that they can bring something cool out of them that a normal player would never appreciate or understand or see at all, right? Like, doing completing Majora's Mask with only two pauses, like that just seems completely unbelievable to like a normal Majora's Mask fan. And yeah, it helps you appreciate the game in a different way, and it helps you appreciate the game more to watch and understand this. And yeah, so I love stuff like this. And yeah, I think of it as kind of criticism. And yeah, stuff like the Ninja Gaiden thing, like modding and like making randomizers and stuff like that, I think of as somewhere between like criticism and like actually improving the game directly. I don't know. It's complicated, but yeah, I'm curious if anyone's watched these because I haven't watched them yet. there's three just on this channel this year, and there's like an Ocarina of Time 3D one. I'm pretty sure. So is because I will say, there's been so many of these at this point that I feel like I've seen, the Majora's Mask, and especially for me, not being as familiar with Ocarina of Time, the OOT ones have gotten kind of old at this point. So I don't really know. Maybe I'll just try them all. What's the meaning of pauses in this context? Going to the pause menu. Like you press the start button and open the pause menu. So like I highly, if you're not familiar with any of this stuff, I highly recommend which one? Majora's Mask in two pauses remastered. This is an amazing video. This is like one of the one of the highest recommendations of any YouTube video that I could possibly give. Um, but just think about it. You can't equip. There's no way to equip items without going to the pause menu. But watch it after this video. Yeah. Sorry, I need to be better at selling out and trying to keep people engaged. Can't recommend other videos during my stream. No, but Dark Souls 2 Zero bosses. I haven't seen that one. That sounds interesting. So yeah, you know, this is a total of well, a maximum theoretical maximum of 6 items on your C buttons in total throughout the run. I'm pretty sure that's true. There's but yeah, there's obviously crazy tricks that will be involved, and it's commentated. The commentary is really good. So yeah, really, really, really good video, and a lot of these other ones are good as well. Um, I mean, all of them, none of them are bad, but I do feel like the OOT ones have gotten a little more stale for me. But maybe that's just because I'm not as familiar with OOT. But yeah, uh, maybe I'll just try them all. Seems like no one has specific recommendations for these new ones. OOT and 6C presses. Oh yeah. Yeah, that one is really good. That's definitely my favorite OOT one. I mean, that's just crazy to think about. All dungeons and 6C presses. There's so many dungeons in that game. That's just demented. Oh, we have a Discord. Wait, does it actually work? Like is the invite is alive. Nice. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. There's that. What other news do we have? Oh yeah, I was looking at the marathon. Okay. Do you guys know about Marathon, the new Bungie game? I assume everyone knows about it because this is one of those games that gets marketed to death, right? I played this game. Okay, so they had a quote server slam, a server slam, or maybe it's still going on. It started yesterday or the day before. I played like 2 rounds, and man, it seems so boring. Yeah, like they're like stress testing the servers and stuff, so that when it goes live, um, they hopefully won't go down. But also, like they're getting last minute feedback and stuff. They're they're feeling out the people's impressions about the game and everything. But man, like Bungie is the biggest, one of the biggest studios out there, right? Like people are supposed to be more excited about a new Bungie game than like anything else in the world. But just my quick impressions, it does not seem like it does not seem like that's how it's going. Uh, Hell no, game is terrible. We'll get shut down within 3 months, and will be in the past. Are you gonna buy it? No, didn't catch me. Like I just wonder. It does seem like Bungie's games have gotten steadily less interesting over the years. I mean, even I don't know, even Halo wasn't like gameplay wise that interesting, but aesthetically it was super interesting. Um, the setting and everything, you know. Destiny a little less interesting in every way, I think. Uh, Marathon maybe even less interesting. I do wonder. Here's something I've been thinking about. So like this is an extraction shooter, right? Um, like we've gotten so many of these extraction shooters now, and I just wonder if so back in like 2018 or whatever, whenever PUBG came out, right? That was the new that was kind of the first battle royale that broke into the mainstream, and it really broke into the mainstream in an unexpected way, right? And so publishers jumped in on that big time, right? Like they committed hard. They made Fortnite, they made Apex Legends, whatever else. Call of Duty jumped in on it big time, and they I just that was obviously a massive success for those publishers who really committed to it and those studios who really committed to it. It was obviously very successful. And I just wonder if there's a little bit of FOMO from everyone else, or like, you know, they're thinking after that happened, they're way too ready to commit to something else that looks like that, right? So like when Tarkov came along a little bit after PUBG, and kind of introduced this extraction shooter concept. I just wonder if the publishers were like, "Oh, this is the next battle royale thing," and so everyone is just jumping on that a little bit too heavy, right? Um, like it's likely that Marathon, when it started development, was not going to be an extraction shooter, right? Like, and same with a lot of these things, like Arc Raiders and whatever. Um, and Arc Raiders was obviously very successful, and I think there's room for this stuff to be pretty successful, but I don't see the concept as quite as I don't think the concept has the longevity of the battle royale concept. Battle royale is a lot. I don't know. It just strikes me as a lot comfier. Extraction shooter, losing all your stuff, that's like a little bit stressful in a way that battle royales aren't. Um, all this management stuff, like it's kind of simulation-y, and they've kind of watered that down from since Tarkov with like Arc Raiders and Marathon seemingly, but it's still got a layer of like simulation gamey kind of complexity that I'm not sure most people really want. Whereas I think battle royales is they're very easy to hop into, but they're also very easy to take seriously. They work for the whole range of players, right? Whereas extraction shooters, when I think about that whole range, I was just thinking about like the super casual players are maybe not as interested in extraction shooters. They're kind of more complicated and stressful and stuff. And but also like the hardcore like esportsy kind of players are maybe less interested in something like Marathon, something like an extraction shooter as well, because it's not as competitive like that. It's not as much of a pure gamey game. It's more of like a mixing a gamey game with like MMO kind of appeal, and like yeah, I just don't see the concept as having the legs that the battle royale concept has, and I think publishers committed a little bit too hard with it, and I'm wondering if Marathon is not going to be nearly as big of a hit as they expect. um, Largely for that reason. Yeah, that's a great question. What was the original Marathon from the '90s even like? I do not know. I totally forgot actually that it was a re what do you call it, like a reimagining or reboot, revival. What's up, Gosu? Thanks for the kind words on my 2025 post at Matthew Matosis, by the way. um, I get a little uncomfortable when people tag specific you know e-celebs or famous people or whatever like that. But what you wrote was really nice and really good, and I'm happy that you got a lot out of that post, if nothing else. So thanks. Oh yeah, Dusk Bloods. I need to look into that. Am I gonna have to buy a Switch too? That's the one that's on Switch too, right? He asked for it on stream. I did see that. Yeah, yeah. I've been listening to his streams while doing other stuff. And I was actually about to say, yay, Switch 2. Yeah, Misa wants me to buy a Switch 2. I was actually about to talk about this one last thing I wanted to talk about before we talk about Love Eternal. People, this has sparked some discourse on Twitter. Uh, Actually, maybe before I before I show that too much, maybe you guys all already saw it, but I wanted to ask before you saw his answer, what are some of y'all's favorite games of the 2020s so far? I'm curious. Just like, he gives a top 10, right? But you can just give one, you can just give however many come to mind as like your real like standout favorites of the 2020s so far. Very very curious what you guys have to say because I've thought about it a little bit. It's tough to blueprints and ooh, good good shouts for sure. I obviously still need to play blueprints. I keep saying that, but it seems yeah. I expect to like it a lot. I expect it to at least be very interesting. Alan Wake 2, Minesweeper 2. Is that real? You're gonna make me Google this. A game made for a school assignment. Wait, is this what we're talking about, or is this a meme? It's called Logic Bombs. Yeah, kind of true. It's peak Minesweeper 2 on Android. Okay, okay, we're memeing. We're memeing. That's fine. Silk Song, Elden Ring, Void Stranger. Those are interesting picks. I kind of hated Void Stranger, but in a way that was like I really wanted to like it. Elden Ring and Silk Song actually I still need to get around to. But I'm gonna wait for the DLC on Silk Song. Elden Ring I feel like I'm kind of ready to take on actually. I was just so burnt out on FromSoft games when Elden Ring came out that I knew it was a bad idea for me to try to play that. I would just not. I was going to dislike it if I played it at that time that it came out, and I was just busy with other stuff. But um, yeah, now I feel like I'm ready to give Elden Ring a fair shake, and I'm actually kind of excited about it because a lot of people who share at least some FromSoft game takes with me, um, they like Elden Ring more than Dark Souls sequels and stuff like that. Inscription, man, I need to get around to that one too. Jesus, you guys reminded me how many games I still haven't played. Kirby Air Riders. I don't think that one's for me, but I would try it if I get a Switch 2, which I probably will. 14 Minesweeper variants. I saw. Is that like Zachtronic's Solitaire collection, but anime? Overwhelmingly positive. This yeah, this I could see this being interesting for sure. Cuz I like Sudoku variants, like extra Sudoku rule stuff, like crazy Sudoku puzzles, right? But the problem with that is they aren't like structured in like one game together. Like having normal puzzle like modern puzzle game structure where the levels are very carefully curated and like organized, like sequenced, so that the game knows what you know all the time and it's always giving you a level that's like the right difficulty and the right like knowledge check for your current the current place you're at. Um so yeah, I wonder if something like this could be good. Like I always thought like a lot of those Sudoku variant puzzles that I've played would be great. Like I would potentially love them a lot if they were packaged in one game like that. Curated well and sequenced well is really what I'm saying. But um but yeah, maybe I should leave this. Maybe I should look into that later. Um here's this again. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Gotta respect the schedule. Gotta respect the on-screen schedule. UFO 50, yeah. I have to get to that as well, but I don't know, man. That's that's a big that's a big commitment to even start to process that. The Goss stack is kind of cool. Yeah, the Goss stack is very cool. Uh, you like Elden Ring as a myth and visual art. Well, I mean, I'm into that. Yeah, I could see myself not loving the gameplay of Elden Ring that much, but getting through it and happily playing the whole thing just for the vibes and the art direction seems like a step up from some of their other stuff. It seems more in line with like Bloodborne and stuff, Dark Souls One, Demon Souls. Um, so yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for it for that reason. Yeah, Ooh is a banger for sure. I definitely recommend Ooh if you want a puzzle platformer of any kind. Pretty short game, pretty approachable game, not crazy hard or anything. At least for the for the main game. Uh, but although my favorite part was not the main game, I will just say. But I don't think it's much of a spoiler to say that because it's not like it's not like the extra stuff. Like the extra stuff is kind of hidden, but it's not hidden in an interesting way at all. Like yeah, I don't know. If you play it and get mad at me, if you play it and think that I shouldn't have said that, please come back and tell me why because I feel like yeah, I feel like that aspect of the game is kind of just stupid. But yeah, I love the extra puzzles in Ooh. They really push that rule set to places that you would never ever ever expect it to go. It seems so simple and it gets so crazy. Half-Life Alex, Caves of Cud, Balatro, Eugenics. Ain't shit come out since 2020. I don't know what you're talking about, Shibi, with the OOT Sudoku puzzle. Don't think I would like Kirby Air Riders. Yeah, I don't think so either. Tunic for you. Yeah, Tunic is up there for me. I think Tunic. I think you're the first person who has said something that was on the list that I came up with. Maybe someone else said one. But yeah, the list that I came up with. Well, let's look at Matthew's list first, right? Pseudo Regalia. I added that to my Steam wish list recently. I'm interested in that. Uh, okay. Matthew's list that everyone is shitting on. In my part of Twitter at least, everyone is shitting on this list in a way that really surprised me, okay? Like, let me just say, Matthew Matosis was the game critic for me for a long time. Like from 20 whenever I discovered his channel, 2012 or something until like maybe 2017 whenever I branched out a little bit more. But and in that era, that wasn't even his best era, right? Like he he got a lot better as a game critic. Like his thoughts got a lot deeper and more interesting about games, and his writing got a lot better uh, in the kind of late era. But still, like Matthew Matosis was the game critic for a long time. Like I watched a lot of YouTube video essays in that era. Those are the kind of mid 2010s. Like I was hungry. I was like, starting to understand and think about games more seriously myself at that time, right? And I was hungry for people thinking critically about games. And I was just so disappointed, right? Like, I was consistently so disappointed by everything I could find on YouTube. Um, yeah, I don't want to name specific people, but I've ranted about specific YouTubers in the past. Um, and yeah, Matthew Matosis was the one that I thought like really was clear headed about, and I don't I'm not like fanboying. I'm not like a fanboy. I'm not like worshiping him or anything. Like there are things that I think I understand about games a lot better than him at this point, especially at this point, because he's been like developing for a while. He hasn't been keeping up with releases as well and stuff. But there are things that I disagree with him about, and yeah, and some of those things are not. I feel like are not so much a matter of taste. I'll just say that. But the bullying on Twitter is so crazy. Like, well, yeah. I want an honest list, of course. The bullying on Twitter about this list has been just so crazy, and I think it's a solid list. Like, I think I really would like to see the top 10 of like everyone who is like saying that this is a terrible list. Like I just can't imagine that any of them are better than this, right? Like yeah, this is a very solid generalist list. Like if I had to nitpick this, I would say Tears of the Kingdom, I think I'm not a big fan of Tears of the Kingdom. I think a lot of it is kind of a waste of time. I think it's not very dense with interesting stuff. It's a little too sandboxy. It's not yeah, I just don't have I just don't have the time to sit through a game that's not that really doesn't care about showing me what is interesting about it, right? I don't know. That's maybe not the best way I could characterize my problems with Tears of the Kingdom, but I think it's a really interesting game, and that's kind of what he's saying. Like he himself is caveating this here, right? Like he's saying I'm not saying it's flawless. Like this almost reads like he knows that this is not, in some sense at least, it's not on par with the rest of or with most of what he's gonna list. Like he is himself caveating it, but he's saying they're doing impressive things with those games, and I completely agree. I think it's very obvious that Nintendo is doing a lot more. Like they're doing experimental game design, right? They're doing experimental game design for the masses, but it is experimental game design. They're doing a lot of really interesting. They're making a lot of really interesting decisions, and I've talked about that a little bit on Twitter and stuff, so I won't get too deep into that right now. But um, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, super interesting game. Like I consider it a valid pick, even though I did not like the game very much. 13 Sentinels, I actually want to revisit this one. I played a couple hours, and it's kind of an anime, almost visual novel kind of game. Yeah, and this is all totally consistent with what he's said in the past for sure. But I think everyone is just taking this by itself as like, is this good taste, or is this like a respectable list or whatever? And yeah, so 13 Sentinels, like I can see how it might be the best of its kind, the best in its category. It's not for me, I don't think. I might give it another chance at some point because I played a couple hours, and since then, people like Matthew Matosis and other people I know have recommended it as like, yeah, it is actually worth it. It pays off big time. It was not striking me as high quality in the first couple of hours, um, and it has this tacked on gameplay thing that I found to be a pain. Not a pain, just like again a waste of time. But 13 Sentinels feels like a totally respectable pick to me. Returnal, I'm looking forward to playing this. Like I love, uh, maybe love is a little bit of an exaggeration, a little bit too strong. But I liked Nex Machina. I like Housemark. I like that they are trying something new with Returnal. They're trying to appeal to the mainstream a little bit more, a lot more actually. They're trying to appeal to the mainstream more while doing something different. It seems to, it seems to have had influence also, like among some smaller studios. I've seen other smaller studios doing Returnal-esque things since then. I think that's cool. So it's at least cool on that level. But I expect to enjoy it a lot. I've heard that there's DLC that's a little more hardcore and stuff. Blueprints I've already talked about a little bit. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up in my top 10 once I've actually played it. Brutal Orchestra, I've heard interesting things about. I have it on my Steam wish list. I'll play it at some point, but I don't actually know that much about it. It's like some kind of tactics roguelite or something. But yeah, I don't know. That's a cool pick. I don't know. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection, obviously I like a lot. Is a very cool pick, and there's just nothing else like that out. There's nothing else like that that's come out since 2020. So like, how can you argue with that as a pick? Hyper Demon, same thing. How can you argue with that as a pick? Can you guys hear that sneeze? By the way, my neighbor sneezes so loud. And I guess now that we're getting into spring, it's like 10 times a day. This bro needs to figure this out. Anyway, Can of Wormholes. This is probably the pick that I would argue with the most. Um, just because, well, it's a valid pick from his perspective, right? But from my perspective, Can of Wormholes is kind of just Snakebird plus Pipe Push Paradise. It's kind of just two previously existing puzzle games, right? And the Pipe Push Paradise aspects are, I think, better executed in Can of Wormholes than in Pipe Push Paradise, but the Snakebird aspects are not nearly as well executed in my opinion. I love Snakebird, and Can of Wormholes didn't quite. Let's sneeze again. Didn't quite do it on that level, but I still enjoyed this game a lot. Um, so yeah, I would just say that for me, I wouldn't make the cut because it's not as original. And there are other games that do parts of this better. Pizza Tower and Neon White, these two are not so much up my alley. These kind of routing, um, this is just the repetition, arcadey, uh, execution heavy, routing and execution kind of game. It's just not my thing anymore. I do want to try both of these at some point because so many people have spoken highly about them, but um, still, like, they seem like obviously respectable picks. Like, it's just crazy to me to start beef with this. Like, so, like, yeah, like you can tell from me going through that, like, a lot of this is not really my thing, but like, yeah, it just seems so crazy. Even Noida, he mentions Noida as well, not really my thing, but they're just clearly all noteworthy games for like their kind of game, like, it's just, yeah, there's just the bullying just drives me crazy. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Um, let me scroll up in the chat and respond to stuff. Yeah, not going to talk about other game critics that I don't like. Um, you think it'd be fine even if Matthew said his favorites were all normie slop? I don't know about that, but just I just want someone who, if you're a game critic, you're thinking seriously about games. I just want your list to reflect that in some way, and I want it to reflect your idiosyncrasies, right? I want you to have an opinion. I don't want you to just, yeah, I don't want it to sound like come across as signaling, and I don't want it to, yeah, I don't want it to come across as like phoned in or just like an IGN top 10 list or whatever. But yeah, I just want it to be cool. I just want it to make sense. Like, this makes sense to me as someone's taste in games since 2020. So I just can't imagine not respecting that. Um, who are my top Twitter follows for game design? The first thing that came to mind is me. I don't know, man. Who do I follow? I don't know. You can look at my Twitter follows, um, right? I'm pretty sure you can see that. The problem is, like, a lot of game developers, like, we used to get like Bennett Foddy and Frank Lance and the Zach Gage. A lot of those types of people would post on Twitter back in the day when I first got on Twitter. But now all those people are on Blue Sky, and like Bog Hogs on Blue Sky, Sylvie's on Blue Sky, And I check in on Blue Sky every once in a while, but I don't have an account or anything. So there are fewer interesting game designers, especially on Twitter these days, saying stuff, which is a shame. But there are interesting people talking about games. But yeah, you might have to just, it's kind of a me and my friends type of vibe mostly. Just see who I follow and see if you find anyone interesting. Um, Incredible Machine. Oh, as a kid, yeah. I don't know. I don't. I'm guessing that's some old PC game. I don't know what that is. What are Who are the critics that surpassed Matt for me since then? I wouldn't say surpassed, just like doing a different thing. Like Frank Lance has written a lot about. He's not a full-time critic either. Like, no one's there's no full-time game critic that I think is better than Matthew Matosis. Like, not even close. Unless you're counting me as a full-time game critic at this point, then maybe but even me, like, I'm not great as a games critic in the same way that Matthew Matosis is, right? Like, I might I would like to think that I understand games more than he does at this point, or deeper than he does, at least in a lot of directions. He might understand arcade, uh, certain kinds of action games. Like, if we're talking about Kamiya games or something like that, like, we obviously both are going to have our specialties, but I would like to think that I understand games more deeply than he does at this point. But like, I don't think I'm as good at packaging my ideas and writing really densely and writing in an appealing way necessarily. So yeah, but yeah, Frank Lance has written a lot of interesting games criticism. Um, um, I mean, Sylvie has written a bunch of design docs about her games, and just yeah, random thoughts on that she puts on like a Google Drive somewhere. Yeah, you can find that somewhere. Probably you can probably find that pretty easily. Uh, Maybe if you can't, ask me in the Discord and I'll find it for you. But yeah, that's really interesting. Uh, Bog Hog, I subscribe to Bog Hog on Patreon. That's his stuff is very specific to arcade action games. But he does branch out more than some people. He branches out more than some people, and yeah, he mostly he. My problem with these people with really narrow taste in games sometimes is that they just don't stay in their lane enough, right? They start talking about some really deep topic like puzzle games, right? They start talking about puzzle games despite having no experience with puzzle games, and it just really annoys me. They're just very dismissive. Um, so yeah, I don't have a problem with someone with someone like Boghog who seems to do a good job of talking about the stuff that he actually knows about, and he does know about arcade action games. He has a much deeper understanding of that than I do, and so that's a valuable perspective for me. I will say his writing is a little bit thrown together. It's a little bit it's hard to follow sometimes. It's not exactly like carefully written to be as easy to follow as possible. But if you're interested in new game design ideas, especially like if you're a game developer, I recommend Boghog's Patreon. Yeah, maybe that's it. But yeah, none of those I would say like surpassed Matthew. Like especially like as a generalist, right? Like understanding all types of games. I think Matthew is kind of unsurpassed at what he does. Um, what else? 13 Sentinels is structurally interesting, but what it has to convey is quite mid. I would not be surprised if I end up agreeing with that. But yeah, I probably should like give it a little more of a fair shake at some point. Shadow of the Ninja Reborn is maybe the closest thing to GNG. That is on my Steam wishlist as well. I think I heard about that from Bog Hog also. Um, I think that's my Twitter handle. Are there two underscores there? I hate the two underscores, man, but I don't know what else I should have it be. Um, yeah, Electric Underground. Yeah, I hate the upside down chat. I'm gonna fix that for next stream. That's just terrible. Oh, I should check in on the YouTube chat. Wow, I'm getting a lot of YouTube chat. I'll catch up on that in just a second. Electric Underground. I watch his videos. I don't watch all his videos, but I get value out of um, I get value out of a lot of his ideas, and he has a perspective, and I respect his perspective. But I will say he's totally this type of thing that I was just talking about. Like he needs to be a little bit less dismissive of the things that he doesn't like. He's very closed-minded. He's very closed-minded, and sometimes his thinking is not as clear as I would like for it to be. Like, with Matthew Matosis, you really get the sense that he has really considered, and his theoretical points, they make sense, and they are grounded, and they are considered from all angles in a way that sometimes when you watch Mark from the Electric Underground, if you really start to think about some of the things that he says, I think I've reacted to one of his videos on stream before while I was doing speedruns. Like they don't totally hold up. They don't totally hold up, and often it's more obvious if you've played other kinds of games, right? And so yeah, maybe you could argue that for his taste, it does make more sense or whatever. But he does frustrate he frustrates me a lot sometimes. But yeah, I'm not trying to beef with anyone. I do enjoy his videos more than almost anyone out there on game design. The YouTube Catching up on the YouTube chat, which unfortunately is not on the stream. The YouTube video player is much better than the Twitch one, so prefer it when possible. Yeah, I plan to keep streaming to both. I just need to find a good chat aggregator overlay thing, which this one is apparently not. Someone's pressing the heart button on the on the YouTube stream because I'm watching. Thank you. Played the 868 back demo. I played it a little bit. I don't want to play it too much, I think, because I'd rather just, like I already know how to get through. I can get through one round very easily, like one server really easily. Let me pull that up to talk about. Uh, so for those of you who don't know, Michael Bro is one of my favorite game designers, creator of Cinco Paws, among many other good games that you should play. This is his new or his upcoming game, 868 Back. It's a sort of sequel. I would say more like a reimagining or revisiting of the mechanics from 868 Hack from like 2013 or something. 868 Hack is I think not so worth playing these days. If you've played Syncopause, I kind of feel like 868 Hack is just a weaker version of that for the most to some degree. It's just, yeah, Syncopause just expands on the design of 868 Hack and takes it in a different direction that I think works a lot better in a lot of ways. But this game I think is going to be absolutely worth playing and is going to be a more approachable like starting point for these kinds of games, these kind of like strategy roguelites, roguelikes, I should say. There's not really meta progression or whatever. But Michael Bro is known mainly for this specific kind of strategic, dense roguelike that is called. It has come to be known as bro likes, as the bro like, and yeah, I think this will be a much more approachable starting point than Syncopause is for a lot of people. So, and even for me, like, and I've heard one Syncopause playtester, sorry, one Syncopause like super fan who has a really good score in Syncopause, who has been playtesting 868 back for a long time. I heard him say that this game has surpassed Syncopause as his favorite game of all time. So that obviously makes me interested. I Yeah, I will obviously be playing a lot of this when it comes out, which apparently is later this year. Um, but yeah, I played the demo a little bit, and it's just a very small sample of the overall game. So yeah, I think if you're interested in this game, definitely check out the demo. Wait, oh no, oh no. I got confused. I thought my camera did the thing where it froze again, but I was looking at the YouTube stream and I have it paused. I'm so brain dead, man. Um, yeah, I was having a problem with the camera a few streams ago, or a few weeks ago or something. But yeah, I think I fixed it. Anyway, yeah, excited for 868 back. Excited to have an alternative to Syncopause to recommend to people. And yeah, I'm excited for it for myself as well. I think 868 Hack has a lot of things in it that are interesting and that are interestingly distinct from Syncopause and could that game could really get a lot out of a good reimagining like this. So I can see the potential. I can very easily see the potential. So I'm excited. Um, that was a Person Man, also known as Jake Eagle. He has like a 4K and Syncopause, and he's been around here a little bit, and he follows me on Twitter and stuff. Um, I remember Jay Blow saying that seeing Sausage Roll for the first time made him question the decision to run a studio. Like, should I be doing what he's doing? Yeah, yeah. This is going back to what I was saying about Jonathan Blow a long time ago, probably. um, yeah, it's really tough, right? It's really tough to value like the to weigh the alternatives against each other. Like, am I making a more of an impact on the world and doing better things for games overall or for the world overall by making these big production things or by making a bunch of smaller ones? Like, it's just really tough. Who's deleting messages? Oh, they're deleting their own messages. Ninja Gaiden Black is kind of mid. Skip it and play two. Yeah, I've kind of seen that. I've kind of seen that from some people, but some people have also said that it has more of an adventure game kind of appeal. And yeah, I don't know. I'm interested in playing it. I usually don't skip the first games in series anyway, so I'm gonna play it. Um, Give it a fair shake. Yeah, sorry about the chat not showing up on stream. I thought I had it working for this week, but it's up imbued. Am I gonna stream the genre challenge? I'll be talking about the games. I'll be talking about the games that I play for the genre challenge. I already did talk about Night's Try. That's the one that I've already knocked out from that list. Oh, Animal Well, that's a good shout for the best games since 2020. Baldur's Gate 3, Silk Song. I don't know if I should try Baldur's Gate 3. It seems like a big commitment to even like get into it, you know? And it doesn't necessarily seem like my kind of thing, but it does seem pretty it seems to have a pretty strong appeal to the people who it appeals to, and like it seems to do its thing better in some sense at least than anything else out there, which makes me want to play it. Yeah, surpassing single pause surprises me as well though. I kind of think that there are some things about the core mechanics of 868 hack that at least for my taste are going to be hard to get on the level of Synchopause somehow. Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to talk about this, and I don't want to get into a deep Synchopause rant right now because there's other stuff I wanted to get to for this stream. But but yeah, we had a real this has been a very long, much longer discussion about random stuff than I expected. That's cool. I'm glad a lot of people are showing up and stuff. Do I know the game over analyzer? Is he the one who does more like theory stuff and like citing papers and things like that? I feel like I might have seen that guy's stuff. Okay. Let's let's talk about Love Eternal. This has already been so long. I might cut the Connect Doku and do that next time. Yeah, I feel like I got a little bit of value out of one or two of his things once, but I don't know. There's sometimes you get so theoretical and like high level and like not about a specific game or a specific type of game that it becomes just head in the clouds, like metaphysical type of stuff. Like you know, it's the same reason I'm not very interested in philosophy. A lot of philosophy. Like you're just not in. There's there's a certain sense that you need to develop, or maybe it seems like some people just have this innately, like a sense of valuing groundedness in discussions and like an intuition for when a discussion is getting um too like head in the clouds, like not really connected to reality. Like there's yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the impression that I got from his videos from what I remember, but it is interesting. Like it's cool that someone's doing that angle. But yeah. Um that's actually but going back to Matthew Matosis, like that's something that was good about Matthew Matosis for a long time. Like he really for a long time focused on a specific game at a time. And I think once you've done that for long enough, you can start to generalize a little bit more, but it's just dangerous to make like too many generalizations and like really high level abstract claims about games as a whole, you know? Like this is what's good for games as a whole. Um, yeah. Anyway, I don't know if I should even get into my top 10 games of the 2020s list. You guys probably know what you guys know what games I like. But I'll read it through really quick. The ones that I what I narrowed it down to. Okay, Angel Game. Oh, I should probably say the real title for once. An angel dances in the sparks of a bonfire. Post Void, which I've written about. Tunic, which someone else mentioned as well. A Monsters Expedition. I think that's the standout like Sokoban or like, you know, quote unquote normal puzzle game of the decade so far. Um not Can of Wormholes, but no, yeah, I'm just reading it off my I don't have anything to show you. I'm just reading it off my notes. I'm just reading it off. But but yeah, Monsters Expedition. I do think you kind of have to get into to really see what's special about it. You do have to get into the secret stuff, which is really, really hard. So that one, I don't know. This is all my personal preference. I'm not going to say that any of this is for everyone. But yeah, Monsters Expedition, Baby Steps, which I just talked about last week a lot. That game I think is really underappreciated among like serious gamers. Someone I follow was like saying that it's horrible or something. I don't know. I didn't play it for a long time because I was a little unsure if I was gonna like it, but it ended up being really great. Dunk Lords? Any Dunk Lords fans in the chat? That's probably the most underrated. Maybe the most underrated. It's like an arcade sports game that just completely flopped on Steam because it's a local multiplayer game. Local only multiplayer game, and those games always flop nowadays. Octogram, one of the last Jack Lance games. R.T.3 Search, another one of the last Jack Lance games. Yeah, man, I miss Jack Lance. Soft Kitten Experience, which is my favorite Sylvie game ever. Definitely my favorite of this era. I thought about including other Sylvie games, but I kind of narrowed it down to just that one. And then Hyper Demon, which was on Matthew's list as well. So yeah, that's my list, just my super personal list. But yeah, there's obviously a lot of interesting picks that you could have. Yeah, I like what you guys mentioned as well. I mean, local multiplayer in the current era is just tough. It's just really tough for obvious reasons. No, gamers don't go outside. Gamers don't have friends anymore. Okay. Let's talk about Love Eternal. Where are my volume controls? Okay. So, you want to play games with me? Maybe we will. Maybe we should play something. Not Dunk Lords, though. I don't think you would want to play Dunk Lords. Anyway, so this is Love Eternal. Let me wait. I have a thing. Where is it? I have a thing now. Boom. the fancy title and schedule widget. Okay, this is Love Eternal. This is okay. I will pitch it first. I'm trying to get a little bit better about saying things in the correct order. So first, I'm going to explain what this game is basically, and recommend it before I get into random thoughts, deep autistic rants about it. Okay, so this is a precision platformer. It's like it's sold as a psychological horror precision platformer. Okay, it's like very atmospheric and it's got a story but it's kind of like Celeste if it was spooky or something, right? And I will just say if that sounds up your alley, I cannot recommend this game highly enough. I recommend this game more than anything else that's come out this year so far by a long shot. And even if you're like me where it doesn't really seem totally up your alley, I still potentially recommend it. Like I enjoyed this game a lot. It's my personal favorite that I've played in 2026 so far. And yeah, if I would say if you even if the concept doesn't really sound like it's for you, if you just want games that are weird, right? Like if you just if you played Holding It from the same developer last year, which I recommended last year, you kind of maybe have a sense of what this is, although this is a much higher production value type of thing. And yeah, this game commits to the bit even harder than Holding It did. But yeah, if you just want games to be weirder, like I do, and like deeply weird, not like ooh quirky or like I don't know, like this game is pretty deeply weird, like structurally weird. And for that reason, I'm not going to show too much of it. When we get to like the 20-minute mark or something, I will rewind. Because truly, you have not played anything like this before. I will say that. So yeah, that is my recommendation. And that is the reason why I'm not going to be talking that much about specifics about this game. But what I do want to talk about is this game as a remake. Like, um, this is basically a remake, right? Well, okay. Let me. Maybe I'll save this. This is just going on so long, so much longer than I expected. Maybe I will save this discussion. Maybe I'll save this discussion for another time. Yeah, if you like precision platformers, I will say it doesn't get that hard. Like, the difficulty is like I said Celeste. I compared it to Celeste for a reason. Like, it's in that territory. It's somewhere in that territory difficulty wise. Like, and I'm not talking about like the hardest challenges in Celeste. I'm talking about kind of just like beating the game. Maybe like the B sides. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how hard that game is, but it's not, if you're looking for a fan game, I want to be the guy fan game difficulty or something, you will not be getting that out of this game. But, if you just like a precision platformer with a nice game feel and nice levels that feel good to play and stuff like that, like, it is good on that level for sure. But yeah, I wouldn't say that that's like the main reason to play the game. For me, it wasn't. Can I compare it to Jiggly Zone in terms of difficulty? Much lower. I mean, yeah, much lower, much lower. Hilarious ask. Yeah, I have thoughts about this, but I won't get into that because that's gonna be a whole other discussion. Basically, I don't think that precision platformers are inherently bad in the way that the person who made this meme probably probably does. But I'll talk about that some other time. But and that's coming from me. Like I just said, I'm not the biggest precision platformer person in general. But yeah, this is a really cool game. You should maybe consider playing it. The vibes are just so good. Like the ambient soundtrack and the backgrounds I think are super super cool, and like it all fits together. Like I was saying, like certain creators in games are just like, they're just real artists in a certain sense, right? They're just real artists in the sense of like they know how to communicate. they I feel that I'm in good hands when I'm playing their games. I feel like I am on the way. I can get on their wavelength and not miss things. And when I'm confused, it's because I'm supposed to be confused. It's not because something was communicated poorly or they failed to like anticipate that I was going to do a certain thing or think of it a certain way or whatever. Like this game, Toby Alden is just one of those people for me who like I think is just a great artist in games. So yeah, play this game and maybe play Holding It too. I think I personally enjoyed Holding It more, but I enjoyed both of them quite a bit. So but yeah, I want to talk about this as a remake because it's a remake of Love, the original Love from like 2015 by Toby Alden. And it's like their first game maybe. Holding It does have more PP spoilers. Yeah, if you're a PP enjoyer, definitely go for Holding It instead of this. But yeah, the original Love is like well, let me talk about let me frame the discussion a little bit because I'm talking about remakes because most people around here kind of hate remakes at this point, right? Like at least I kind of feel this way, and a lot of people I talk to kind of feel this way. There's just an instinctive anti-remake vibe around at this point. And I think that's fair, right? Because the mainstream remakes, the remakes that get the most attention in games, it's kind of obvious that I mean, we were just talking about this with Blue Point, right? Like they just fail to capture the magic, or don't even fail to capture the magic of the original. They just like aren't even trying. They're not even trying to do that. They're just trying to make it more palatable and whatever. And yeah, like remake defenders love to point out that, oh, the original still exists, but like I was saying, remakes are taking up space. Like they're in a certain sense taking up space culturally that otherwise would that would be room for the original to potentially flourish in a new way, right? Like if you love something, you want it to have room to flourish. That's just a basic that's just a basic thing, right? And like, you know, I love Demon Soul. I love the original Demon Souls. And because Demon Souls remake happened, maybe we're less likely to get like, you know, probably certainly we're less likely. I don't know what's actually going to happen, but certainly we're less likely to get an actual like remaster of Demon Souls that's more faithful, and you know, we're less likely to get like the servers, the original servers, the official servers back up, which that game really needs, and you know, stuff like that. Like the remake is clearly taking up space in a certain in that way, but also like culturally, like you see discussion about the remakes, and it's sometimes hard to find discussion about the originals, and yeah, like when you're looking up screenshots and stuff like that, looking up anything about these games, like you get the remakes. Like when you're looking up Majora's Mask, you get Majora's Mask 3D. You don't have to type in Majora's Mask 3D to get Majora's Mask 3D stuff. You get Majora's Mask 3D when you type in Majora's Mask, and that's kind of annoying. Um, and yeah, same with Resident Evil games, same with Silent Hill 2, whatever. So yeah, um, so the remakes are kind of crowding out the originals in a way that I and a lot of people don't like. Okay. Is this do I want to show do I want to even show more of this? I think I'm just gonna pause it here and rant, okay? I don't yeah, we won't even show more than the first 10 minutes of this game. Remakes existing often also just makes the original art feel different. Makes the original art feel different. Do you mean like having seen the newer art, you personally process the original art differently? Or like you have it sets different expectations or something like that? I don't know. I can see something like that being true. Yeah. Yeah. Overall, I kind of agree with the general anti remake vibe. Um, and so and and another thing is even for newcomers, right? Like when you're playing one of these games for the first time, when you're playing Resident Evil 4 for the first time, there's like a gravitational pull toward the remake, right? Like most people who aren't willing to like seriously research like which version of every game I should play like before they get into it, they're just going to play the remake. They're just going to assume that it's fine and play it and have a worse experience. So and like even for me, you know, someone who is willing to do the research and stuff, it's making it more complicated and annoying for me, right? Like it's adding to the research that I have to do in order to figure out which version of a game I should play for the first time, which is already a problem with like you know, different versions on different platforms and things like that. But um, yeah, it's a pain. It's a pain for me to have one extra thing that I have to research about um, to in order to maximize the odds of having the best possible like experience with the game that I'm playing for the first time, which I think is important. So yeah, it's just more it's just cleaner, right? Just cut the remake, it's cleaner. Um so yeah, I think you know, you could argue that remakes are worth those or can be worth those downsides, but you have to at least be willing to question you have to be willing to ask what we are actually gaining in exchange for those downsides, right? It's kind of I feel like it's kind of disingenuous to argue that there are no downsides to remakes, which is what people want to argue. So yeah, that's kind of my background coming into Love Eternal. Um, I hadn't really thought too seriously about remakes for a while because like mostly I just try to ignore them. Um, but yeah, Love Eternal kind of challenged my assumptions about remakes in an interesting way that I wanted to talk about because the more I thought about this game and why it's maybe an exception for me, the more I started to wonder what a remake even is. Um, but yeah, let me explain what the original Love is. The original Love is a very hard precision platformer from like 2015. Um, also note if you if you're interested in playing the original Love, which you might be if you are like a hardcore precision platformer fan game difficulty kind of guy, you might want to play the original Love first if you're that kind of person. Um, it is probably my favorite of that kind of game. My favorite of like the crazy difficulty precision platformers. I love the vibes. I love the feel of the levels. The Yeah, I think the level design is really good. Yeah, I don't know. I love the simplicity of the basic mechanic, and so yeah, more than most like ultra hard precision platformers I've played. I think it's worth going to that difficulty, like taking it to that difficulty and asking me to put that much time into it. Um, yeah, so yeah, so Monk or River, let's say. Not let's not call him his Twitch name if he's commenting on YouTube. Yeah, River's saying is bringing up film adaptations of books, which is something that I thought about um, quite a bit, and that's kind of what I'm going to get to with like, yeah, this game really challenged my assumptions and made me think about remakes from a lot of different angles. But yeah, I'll get to that. Um, but Yeah, so if you are interested in playing the original Love first, or at least trying it, you might try it and feel like it's too much for you or whatever. But yeah, it's free. You can go play it, but keep in mind it's the one from 2015 because there is also a platformer Love from like 2008 or something, which is unrelated and as far as I am aware, not very interesting. I don't know. It might be interesting somehow, but yeah, not at least not what I'm talking about here. Um, but yeah, that game is not reasonable for the average player. It like went years without being beaten for the first time, which partially because it was really obscure. Like, you know, Toby did not market it in any way, presumably, and he was an unknown developer and all this stuff. So like that doesn't don't be too intimidated by the fact that it took years to be beaten. Like a bunch of people have beaten it at this point. I've beaten it. Um, but it is like, in kind of fan game difficulty territory, which is just not reasonable for the average player, right? And there are good things about the game that only work because of that extreme difficulty, but there are also good things about the game that don't require that extreme difficulty. There are good things about the game that anyone could appreciate, right? Like it has really good atmosphere. It has good like setting, even without like, I don't think there's any dialogue in the game or anything, but it just has a cool setting and vibes and like I was saying, the basic feel of the movement and the flow of the levels is really good. Um, it has this game really seems to he really seems to care about uh the the feeling of, how it feels in your hands to play a level, right? Like it's like capturing the feeling of like playing a musical instrument well or something like that, which is something that precision platformers, can do better than most kinds of games. And yeah, it's really hard to explain that kind of thing, but yeah, that's something that I appreciate about this game more than most platformers for sure. Um, and yeah, Love Eternal, like it it exists, as far as I can tell, it exists largely to bring those other good things, not the good things that require the extreme difficulty, but the other good things to a much bigger audience, right? And so it's a weird situation. Like you could almost think of this, instead of thinking of it as a remake, you could almost think of it as a new difficulty mode, right? You could think of it as a game. You have this game Love that only has like ultra giga nightmare difficulty mode, and now the remake is like the normal difficulty mode of the same game, which it kind of is. Like if you were I've always thought that to appeal to a wider audience and like more specifically target every player within, like, okay, I've always thought that games that are level based should have multiple difficulty modes that, with more effort put into the design, right? And actual more, like, you want every level carefully considered in the way that you would normally do it in a level based game, but with like three difficulty modes, let's say. Because even if you put, let's say you're making a level based game and you target, you try to tune the difficulty for like the average player in your target audience, right? Even if, let's say there's let's say there's a million people who can enjoy the game with that, within that difficulty range that you've set, right? Like static levels like this, they kind of define the difficulty pretty firmly. Like you can't just, if the game is too, if the game is too hard for you, like if your skill is too low outside of that difficulty range, or if you're too good and you just breeze through it first try, like you might not have a very good time. Um, but even for those same 1 million players, they would have a lot of them would have a better experience if you give them an easy, normal, and hard option, and the game does a good job of like, you know, funneling you into the correct one. The game, those people would all have a more targeted experience if you did three different difficulty levels that are like a little bit more precisely targeting each player. And then if you're doing that, you can also probably catch more of the players who were kind of off the low end, right? Who were kind of like, the game would have been with one difficulty level, it would have been a little too difficult for them, and then on the maybe then the hard mode can catch a few more of the people who would have thought that the game was too easy before. You know, like it's not only it's not only expanding your potential audience, it's also giving the average player who would have enjoyed it already a better experience. Um, So yeah, I've always thought that more games should at least try that. I'm not claiming that all games need to do this or anything like that. Very far from that. I think it's good when games only have one difficulty level. I personally often like that, but it's always been strange to me that more games don't try that, because like, you know, level design for a game like this is a pretty small percentage of the overall work of making the game. You're just arranging elements, right? I mean, you have to put a lot of thought into it, but you know, this game kind of takes the approach of taking levels from the original love and just taking the idea of them and just making them less precise, which works really well and seems like it wouldn't be that hard. It seems like it wouldn't be that much work compared to the amount of work that went into like production values and stuff for this game. But um, anyway, you can think of this as kind of a different difficulty mode, but it also, this game, Love Eternal, also adds a more explicit story, which, you know, maybe he would have done that for the original if he could have, like if he'd had the bandwidth for that at the time, or whatever, the budget. Um, I think the original works really well as is. Like the the people who are deep enough into platformers to have a good time with that gameplay, they don't need anything extra, right? Like they're totally in it for the gameplay. They're totally sold based on just having a really hard precision platformer that's well designed. They don't need like extra motivators like story or whatever. Whereas like a decent sized Steam audience, which seems like he's targeting with this game, they need more production value, story, stuff like that. Like if you're trying to get capture even half of the Celeste audience, right? You kind of need a story, or at least it's at least probably a good idea from a business perspective. And so so yeah, with all that in mind, the conclusion that I came to about this game is that it feels less like a remake and more like a translation. And when I think about it that way, I find it really hard to consider it a bad thing. Like, it's kind of bringing me around on remakes, at least in theory, because like I am regularly grateful for translated novels, right? And I'm not, I think a lot of people assume that when they read a translated novel, they're getting like the full experience pretty much. I am under no illusions about that. I don't think that's true at all. Like I think in some cases I might not even be getting half of the value of like what I would get if I read the original, because I think translation quality varies a lot, and it's just a hard problem in general to translate really good writing. Um, but even if I'm getting less than half of the value of reading the original thing, that's fine. Like that is still worth it for me. That's still like, I'm glad that exists, because I simply do not have the time in my life to learn every language, like every language that great literature has been written in. I just don't have time, like especially to the level of fluency required to like appreciate something that's subtle like a novel, right? Like that's different than just reading nonfiction or whatever. Um, so yeah, I think the same is true in a case like Love Eternal. I think the same is very clearly true. Like most people most people who could appreciate this some of the stuff that this game does with the atmosphere and with the just the basic feel of it and stuff like that, most of those people should not be spending hundreds or thousands of hours getting really really good at ultra hard precision platformers. Like I don't think the world would be a better place if everyone did that or if like a lot more people tried to do that to like appreciate this kind of game, you know? Like yeah. So to me, so it's yeah, it's like a translation. It's translating, just like um just like the translation I've been reading of In Search of Lost Time is making a some percentage of the value of In Search of Lost Time accessible to me as someone who does not have the skill of reading French fluently. Love Eternal is making some percentage of the value of the original Love accessible to people who do not have the skill and aren't going to develop the skill of being really good at like execution heavy games or precision platformers specifically. And I think that's cool. I think that's kind of like the model of a good remake, or like if you even want to call this a remake at all, Um, like yeah, I really think translation is a good term because when you think about it that way, it's less likely to culturally override the original in the way that bothers me, like I was talking about earlier. Like no one is going to recommend no one is going to recommend the English translation of In Search of Lost Time as the definitive version. Actually, I think I have seen some arguments that it's such a good translation that whatever. But in most of the time, like that's an exception. Like um, most of the time, like no one is going to recommend that the original. No one's going to see the translation as a replacement for the original, and I think that's really important. And yeah, so I think this is kind of what I like for a remake to be, is more like a translation, and or like a different version of the game. And yeah, you could imagine both games being in the same package, kind of like I was talking about earlier. Like if it was just two difficulty modes in the same package, um, then maybe I could see an argument for that being better than it being a separate remake type of thing. But honestly, in this case, the difficulty gap is so huge between this game and the original Love that it kind of seems mean to do that, right? Like it seems mean to even have the suggestion that you might want to play the original unless you're like a super hardcore person. And like, you know, people who beat Love Eternal on the normal difficulty, if it then showed them, here, do you want to play this on hard mode? Like, and it's just the original Love, like they would just get completely obliterated and have a bad experience. So I think it makes sense to have it as a separate thing. Um, what else? Um, but yeah, my point is like, to me this seems like a totally valid type of remake or whatever you want to call it, and like you can think about it in terms of like how much of the value you're getting for how much of the effort, right? Like people who aren't really good at precision platformers are getting maybe like, I don't know, these are kind of meaningless numbers, but they're getting maybe like 80% of the value of the original Love by playing Love Eternal. There's also just different things that are good about Love Eternal. It's not totally just what's good about the original. The story is also really interesting and the structure and stuff. But let's just for the theoretical remake discussion, let's say like they're getting 80% of the value for like 1% of the effort, right? Like it would take them so much effort to get good at precision platformers, and it's like playing Love Eternal by comparison is like nothing, and they're getting like most of the value. So that seems good to me. That seems like a good thing to exist in the world, even if it's not my favorite thing. Even if I want more ultra hard autism games or whatever, um, it seems good that that's something like that exists. Whereas something like I don't know, Resident Evil 4 remake. I don't play a lot of these remakes, but I can imagine that maybe something like Resident Evil 4 remake is like less than half the value for like almost the same amount of effort. Like you could say, like maybe Resident Evil 4 remake is like 40% of the value of playing the original, 80% of the effort to play it, right? Or like the original Resident Evil 4 is a little bit challenging to come to terms with in some ways. I can recognize that it is easier to get into a more modern control scheme or whatever, but or like a more normal modern control scheme, I should say. But it's not that hard. Like it's a pretty reasonable ask, I think. And the game gets a lot out of that. And that unique stuff that the original Resident Evil 4 gets out of the control scheme is lost in the original. So I guess with my percentages thing, I'm kind of talking about like unique value, like value that you can't get anywhere else, which is mostly what I'm concerned about with these kinds of things. Anyway, you kind of get my point. Like the it's not a great it doesn't seem like a great trade-off to make it just like 10% easier to get into Resident Evil 4 for the remake, but you're getting so much less. You're getting something that's much more generic, right? It just doesn't seem like a great trade-off. Um, and yeah, like I said, if Resident Evil 4 remake didn't exist, I feel like a lot more people would just play Resident Evil 4. Um, I'm not going to get into the specifics of Resident Evil 4 remake. I just kind of picked an example that seemed plausible. It seemed like a plausible fit for what I'm trying to talk about. I actually haven't played it and I don't really plan to because I like original Resident Evil 4 and I don't like the sound of what they changed. Yeah, I just don't play enough remakes to have good examples at hand for this. But yeah, so I could be wrong about the details there, but hopefully you get my point. I, like I was saying earlier, it's the mainstream remakes that we usually get. The main problem is they're just clearly the business overriding the art, right? In every way possible. Like they're just they're trying to make things more palatable. They have no honestly, they probably have no ability. The people working on it probably can't even see what's special in a lot of cases. They because sometimes it's really subtle. Like there's a subtle magic to Silent Hill 2, the original, that is just really hard to capture. I don't know if the original creators could capture that really, if they tried now. So yeah, but they're not even really trying to trying to capture that. They're just trying to make something that cashes out on like the name recognition and the nostalgia and all of that stuff. So yeah, I think it's worth being a little bit more thoughtful, and I'll try to be a little more thoughtful going forward about how I talk about remakes because I do think there are good remakes, and I think this is a pretty good example. Um, Even though it's not exactly a remake, it's to a large extent a remake, and yeah, like he's making a different artistic statement here for a different audience, and yeah, you have to respect that. You have to respect that. So yeah, that's my remakes rant. Um, let's play this. Let's play the footage a little bit more. Uh, it's good to have something going, but yeah, I really don't want to show past the first bit. But yeah, one thing that this kind of leads me to, this whole thought process about remakes leads me to one interesting question, which is when's the Angel Game remake? When is the Angel Game remake, Toby? Um, I mean, I'm mostly joking, but I would love to see someone try to get one of these kind of dodging avoidance kind of games or just like simple movement games like Angel Game, something like that. I would love to see someone try to make it more mainstream without watering it down. And yeah, that's actually a great point, Sam. The parts of this game, um, I mean, I actually did not think about that, but the movement in this game is kind of like Angel Game if you had to press the button to swap. It's yeah. Is it literally the same physics? Did he? Yeah. Did he copy the physics? Yeah. That's interesting. But yeah, like I think there's potential to bring a game like kind of like Angel Game in certain ways into the mainstream. And let me explain what I mean. Cuz like unlike with Love and Love Eternal, I don't think you have to like water anything down. I don't think you have to do like difficulty settings or different modes for different players or anything like that. I think you can make a game that is a 10 out of 10 for me and it's a 10 out of 10 for like a relatively casual player at the same time in the same mode. I think the kind of score chasing like game like that is a really good the simple score chasing game like that is a really good format to try to do that in. Like it's hard to I think it's hard to convince people of this. I'm going to try, but it's hard to convince people of this because there aren't great examples to point to. There's no one game that I can easily point to that kind of does it all in terms of what I'm talking about here. But the closest example that comes to mind is just Tetris, right? Everyone loves Tetris in a way that is really unusual. You usually the more casual gamer audience and the more hardcore audience have very their tastes don't overlap very much. But Tetris is like a standout example where kind of everyone loves it, and I think a big part of why is that it's kind of balanced for all players from the very start. Like from minute one, Tetris is balanced for all kinds of players because you control the difficulty with how you drop the blocks, right? Like by default the blocks are dropping really slow, so there's no pressure on like really inexperienced players, or if you're like brand new to the game or whatever. But you can also drop them instantly. You can go super fast, which maybe you want them to drop automatically instantly, and there are modes and different Tetris variants and stuff for that. But like it goes a long way to make the game, the fact that you can control the pace so much goes a long way to make the game instantly enjoyable for advanced players, even while it is appealing to a complete casual. So yeah, I think designers of like any kind of like arcadey or roguelikey score chasing game, or just like a simple like browser game like Angel Game, would do well to think about Tetris as an example in that way and try to try to let the player control the pace but also reward it's a little bit of a different sound effect, right? Or is it literally the same one? I kind of thought it was different. That's funny if it's the same one. Um but yeah, like there are other examples I can bring up to explain what I mean, because I think a lot of different games can do something like this. Because I wrote about this a little bit with Post Void, my essay about Post Void, explaining why it's a lot deeper than you think and really just a better game than people realize. Um, part of that is how the scoring system works and how it makes the game engaging for a very wide range of skill levels. So, you know, a relatively inexperienced player, if you're relatively inexperienced with FPSs or action games in general, you will probably struggle to survive at the beginning in Post Void, and it'll be an accomplishment for you just to get through the game at all. And that's fine. That's good. But it also gives you control at a very granular level, like moment to moment. You are constantly making decisions about how much risk you can take on and how much extra difficulty you can take on. Because you can run past stuff, and the more stuff you just decide to just run past, the less extra health you're getting, and the more you have to dodge the stuff that you're running past. You're not actually, it's safer to take it slow and kill everything. But running fast, running past stuff, going faster, makes it harder and more engaging for high skill players. And the game rewards that with score if you really understand the scoring system. Another kind of more example that people might be more familiar with is Devil Daggers. Like, in Devil Daggers, it's not as strong as an example because It's not as granular like post void. You're not making as many. You don't have as many options for how to change your for how to tweak the difficulty moment to moment. But in Devil Daggers, you can leave the spawners up. You can always leave the spawners up to farm extra gems, and whenever you do that, it makes it harder, right? So it still takes a long time for that game to ramp up, and so it's not super engaging for high level players from the beginning in the same way as Post Void or like Syncopause is kind of the goat of this, right? As as it is for many things, Syncopause is like the strongest example of this to me. It does such a good job integrating the scoring system into everything else and making the making it just the right level of challenge all the time for such a wide range of player skill levels. The problem is that range is like that range like starts way up here and goes like beyond what anyone what anyone has ever managed to like get to. You know, the skill floor for that game is still super high, even though it works for a very wide range. It's like, yeah, most people are still outside of that range. So yeah, I'm hoping 868 back is a little bit better in that regard. But anyway, hopefully you understand what I mean. Like something like Angel Game, I really think there's potential to make a kind of game like that that captures what's great about Angel Game, but has a better format, structure, scoring system that that makes it even more appealing, honestly, to someone like me, while still making it much more appealing to a more casual audience. Because Angel Game is just a little too hard. Like off rip, Angel Game is like stupid hard for most people. So yeah, that's that. I was gonna talk about Connect Doku. I think I'm gonna save it for next week because we ended up chatting for a long time. Maybe the chats are gonna end up just always being real long, and I'm gonna have to just I don't know. I'm gonna have to just make these streams really long, but I think I'll call that good for now. Yeah, just again, this is a really good game. Love Eternal. You should strongly consider playing it if you like weird stuff or precision platformers or just crazy stories and stuff. But yeah, if you want to keep up with what I'm playing and did that work? Did the exclamation point Discord work? No, it didn't. Someone else do exclamation point Discord. If you want to keep up with what I'm playing, share what you're playing, talk about games in general while during the other 6 days of the week, you should join the Discord. And yeah, thanks for hanging out. See you next week. Bye bye.